Hello, everybody. This is Kyrix, and this is This Year in Kyrix 2017. It has been a hell of a year. Oh boy, I don't even know where to start. I mean, this year we've had two kittens in the house. Only one of us is with us now. Don't worry, that doesn't mean the other one died. He just moved out with his owner. Cause that's the thing. I began this year with two roommates, and I now am down to one because they broke up and she moved out, and yeah, there have been some ups and downs this year, some big ones. A lot of bad things like losing a roommate, losing that kitten as well. Although if we hadn't, if that kitten were here, we probably wouldn't have the new one. But who knows? Uh, my hospital stay, which I'll get into in detail. Some financial scares, a couple of them actually. My food stamps being dropped at the start of the year and just completely fucking me out of like $50 worth of food. But there's also been some good things, like the Pokemon League, and me getting better at Star Trek, and a new game system. So, yeah, like I said, there was a hospital stay around the time of Hurricane Irma? I guess it was Irma. I don't know. Anyway, the hurricane hit, and being a Floridian, I was a little concerned when it was up to Category 5, and then we found out it was going to be a Category 2, at which point I walked outside to walk the dog, because it's if it's not a Category 3, Floridians don't care. It, I know you think, oh, you're just saying that. No, it's really true. And don't even talk to us about tropical storms. The level to which we don't give a shit about tropical storms is just beyond your ability to comprehend if you don't live here. I mean, we really look at tropical storms the same way most people look at, a thunderstorm. Of course, I can't really say that because in Florida, we don't give a shit about thunderstorms. I don't know how you people outside of Florida deal with them. For all I know, there's lots of people who are like, "Oh no, it's a thunderstorm. I ain't going out in that." I'm like, "Shit, someone's got to get the mail." um. So yeah, we weathered that with no problems at all. The only thing it did to us was it messed up our yard because shit got blown all over the place. And I was feeling pretty good about it, and this was on Monday. Friday, I decide I need new headphones because mine are all fuckety. So I wander up to Walmart. I get a couple headphones, like 3 or 4 of them. They're little dollar headphones, in case you're wondering. And I'm feeling hungry, so I grab some nutty bars and something else and a soda or two. And I start riding home, and I got my headphones in, and then I'm waking up on the ground. And I'm in just unbelievable pain. And I say wake up, but it wasn't waking up so much as I felt pain. Then I opened my eyes, and I wasn't breathing. So step 1 was get myself breathing. Step 2 is assess the damage. My neck hurt, but obviously I crashed into something. My shoulder hurt, and my head was killing me, and I touched it, and I came away with blood, and I'm like, oh, that's not good. So, of course, the first step was to call my roommate and say, hey, dude, please come pick me up. I don't know if I can walk home. Didn't happen. Next step, I think, was to call my friend, but he didn't answer because I figured he was off work. Third step was to call my aunt, and then didn't get a hold of her either, and then she called me back. I explained the situation, and she told me to call an ambulance, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to get stuck with the bills. And she's like, well, if you hurt your head, you really need to do that. So I call the ambulance, and I work myself into a sitting position. Or maybe I was crouched still at the time, and I sat when they got there, and they looked me over. They're looking at my head, they put me in a neck brace. Fortunately for me, they had... I don't know if you guys are familiar with this. I've had a lot of ambulance calls for moms, so they don't just send the ambulance. A lot of times they'll send fire rescue as well. Well, I got loaded into the ambulance, and the guys in the fire rescue were nice enough to load my bike. So I went to the hospital with my bike and all my stuff. And they put me in the trauma center, which sucks for me, because if I hadn't needed the trauma ward, I could have literally gone to the hospital across the street from my house and walked home, you know? But it is what it is. So they wheel me into the trauma ward, and they're looking me over, you know, and they I'm in a neck brace. I don't know if I mentioned that, because when they put me in the ambulance, they're like, "We want to put you in a neck brace." I'm like, "Okay, as long as you're not poking me with needles, you can do whatever you need to do, you know." So I'm up there. I'm in a neck brace. Finally get a hold of my friend. He comes up to see me, as does my aunt. And at this point, it's like 9 o'clock, and I'm concerned because I'm not home to feed the pets, you know. But I sit up there. We bullshit for a little bit, me and my friend. They come back in. They say, "Okay, we need to take you in for an X-ray." So they take me in. They X-ray my shoulder. Then they take me in for a CAT scan. At this point, I'm in an arm sling. You know, at this point, they've given me a sling to wear. And I'm in the CAT scan. And they pull me out. They take me back to my room. They're discussing whether or not I'm going to need stitches or staples in my head. Later on, they'll go for staples. And at this point, they wheel me into the main room, which I think was the ER. Yeah, I think it was the ER. So I'm sitting in there, and I can hear a guy in there just in so much pain. I would actually see him later, but that's beyond the point. Or no, I wasn't in the ER yet. The ER came afterwards. They come in and they tell me, "Okay, we need to put an IV in you," and I'm like, "Oh, I don't like that." And I'm like, "Why do I need an IV?" They're like, "Well, the X-rays came back and you fractured your scapula, which is your shoulder blade." And I'm like, "Really?" Also, by then, news had come by that I'd also broken my neck. And I'd never broken bones in my life, and I did not for a moment think that my bones were broken, because I thought I would be in so much more pain than I was. And they tell me, "Well, the scapula is a very difficult bone to fracture, and you did. And we're worried that you might have damage everywhere, such as ruptures in your organs. And we need to put an IV in you to do the contrast fluid and put you in the CT scan to make sure your organs are intact. And I don't like needles, so I'm seeing if there's literally anything else they can do." And they tell me no. I'm like, "Do I have to do this?" And they tell me, "Well, if you don't, you could be dead in the morning." And this is a thing. I have recently taken issue with the word transphobia. Not the concept, the word. I understand there are people who hate transgender people, and I've actually suggested the word trans-invidia instead, because it more accurately conveys the emotions involved with that mindset. But I've said that transphobia is the wrong word because you don't know what a phobia is. Here's an example of a phobia. I have a phobia of needles. This phobia manifested in a way in that hospital room where they told me that if they don't put a needle in my arm, I could die in the morning. And I told them I'll get back to them. And I sat there for something like 20 minutes and weighed the pros and cons of dying versus getting a needle in my arm. Let that stew around in your head for a moment. I seriously sat there and thought, would being dead by morning really be so bad? As opposed to letting them put a needle in my arm. That is a phobia. To put this into proper perspective, I'm someone who is not at all comfortable with the concept of mortality. And I was more afraid of that needle than I was of dying for at least a very little while. Now, obviously, I let them do it. I told them to wait until my friend came back in from a smoke break. And again, keep in mind, I have a fractured right arm that's in a sling that I cannot move very well. Well, I have a fractured right shoulder, but I'm not doing anything with that arm. So I have him, my friend, physically restrain my left arm while they put this needle in me. He says I took it rather well. I beg to differ. Put the needle in, wheel me into the CAT scan, etc. And then I come back and I'm in the emergency room. That's what it was. And at this point, I had my friend take a picture of me with my IV in and my neck brace and my sling and all this bullshit. And they come back and tell me, for a while, one of the doctors tells me that the vertebrae that I chipped, because that's what it was, that if I weren't very careful, I could be paralyzed. And then he talked to the doctors a little bit more and told me he was wrong. He thought the chip was on the back side of my neck as opposed to the throat side, and it was on the throat side, which is still bad, but not like, oh, this could end your life bad, which is what he thought. Oh, sorry, Rio. And at this point, they put me in my second neck brace, which is one of the two that came home with me. And they said they were gonna keep me overnight while they checked my scans and all that, because I might need surgery in the morning depending on the status of my organs. Come to say, they didn't need surgery at all. And they put 2 staples in my head, and the doctor put a syringe in my head of numbing agent before he stapled me, which, believe it or not, I was okay with. I'm significantly more comfortable with shots than I am with any other kind of needle. And I knew from experience, because I'd had this particular thing before when I had to have my neck lanced, that you will not feel a goddamn thing once this juice is in you. So I was okay with it, you know. So they eventually sent me home, and the person who'd been in pain in the ER was actually my roommate. I hope he recovered fine. But long story short, it was 8 weeks before they got that fucking brace off me. And it was not one of the high points of my existence at all. But an exciting thing did happen during that time. The Pony movie, the My Little Pony movie, finally came out, and I saw that in theaters with a friend of mine. I managed to trick her into not only taking me, but sitting through it with me, you know. And I paid for the movie ticket, but that's a small price to pay. The original plan had been to ride my bike up to the theater to see it, but with a neck brace and a broken arm, that wasn't going to happen. Sorry about the yawn. But the ear wasn't done kicking me just yet, because while playing Pokemon, I managed to drop the game, the 3DS, on my laptop and broke it. I'm pretty sure I wrecked the power supply. And I'm fairly certain the hard drive is perfectly salvageable if I could figure out someone who could do that for me, because I have no money. Which absolutely fucked my channel in the ass, because I had so much work on there that I hadn't transferred to the external yet. My schedules were on there. I had shit that I was working on, so a whole bunch of my Let's Plays are on pause. Shit that should have gone up now isn't going to, because I don't remember when it goes up. But fortunately, as you can see, I had another laptop, and I managed to get it working. The original plan had been to get it working on a temporary basis, but temporary became permanent. And it's not functioning as well in some cases. I have not yet really revived any of my recordings yet. I experimented briefly with doing Final Fantasy VII, but my audio was coming in weird, and it still might. I actually have to go back and check. But I need to do some audio checks and all that. But if all goes well, I will fairly soon resume recording. I've actually been playing a lot of the PlayStation 4. But that's winding down a bit to the point where I'm back to my normal routine. Because whenever you get something new, it becomes your routine for a couple of months. And on Thanksgiving, we picked up a PlayStation 4. But So yeah, I really haven't done anything with my PlayStation 3, but I intend to, within the next week or so, probably, start doing some more recordings and just playing games in general. I, this month, made a purchase that I should be getting either at the start or the end of January of an HD capture card. Sorry, another yawn. And I'm a bit iffy on it because it was so cheap. It was $20 as opposed to the 150 that all the other ones I ever saw went for. But if it performs as advertised, I will begin doing recordings for the PlayStation 4 as well. Like, sorry, Rio. I will do 7 Days to Die as This Week in Kyrix. I will do the Shantae series. I will do Xenoverse 2, XCOM 2, Resident Evil 7, shit like that. On top of this, I will hopefully finally get around to Shadows of Mordor and a couple of the games that I've been putting off for the PS3. This has actually been a good year for me getting video games. I've got like a dozen. I've like doubled the size of my Steam library easily. I participated twice in 4-Job Fiesta this year, and I'm very proud of both of those runs. Especially the second one. Second run. Wow, I made that game my bitch. Let's talk about that briefly. That was a thing I started last year, but this year I did another random run, and completely by accident, the game gave me a no 720 run, which is no magic classes at all, which made the game indescribably difficult, let me tell you, because that game really does rely on you having magic. But I pulled through, I persevered, and I beat the game. And then, because I did so early in the month, because I didn't have all the hang-ups that prevented me from finishing it last year, like a cold hitting me, and moving rooms, and other various things that got in the way, I had plenty of time. I'm like, well, shit, I'll do a second run. And this time I'm like, well, since last time I didn't get any magic classes, this time I'll get nothing but magic classes. And my first two classes were both Red Mage, because I did the Chaos run again. And so I didn't have any class for the first run, and then I got Red Mage. And then I stopped to grind off screen to master Red Mage so that I got dual casting. Which really shaped the way the game was going to go for the rest of the game. My third job was Bard, and at this point, I figured, well, I can't go through the game with 2 Red Mages, a Bard, and something else. I need to get rid of one of the Red Mages. So, there's a feature where you can donate money and get a class switch, and I basically said to the guy, I'm like, look, I'm at the 4th crystal now. I'm about to get my 4th crystal. Can I switch one of my Red Mages for Summoner? And he's like, because the rules, well, their suggestions really suggest that you don't do that. It's like, when you get it, you can do it, but don't, like, right before the boss, switch classes kind of thing. But he okayed it, and I got that. And my 4th job was Bard, so if I hadn't done that, I'd have had Red Mage, Bard, Bard. Instead, I have Red Mage, Summoner, Bard, Bard. However, I had the 5th crystal option, which was new for this year, where when Galuf dies and his granddaughter takes over, she gets her own crystal. And her job was Blue Mage. And this class combination broke the fucking game so hard. I can't even tell you how devastating this was, because... Okay, first off, Red Mage, to have Red Mage mastered as early as I did, where I was basically running 4 Red Mages because I didn't have the other classes yet, meant that everybody in my party could cast 2 spells every turn. So even though I didn't have the level 3 healing spells, I was at a point in the game where that didn't matter, and I could cast 2 level 2 curing spells, which did about as much as 1 level 3. So me dual casting is doing just unspeakable amounts of damage. Then when I get Summoner, Turns out you can dual cast Summon. Which, yeah, when you dual cast Titan, that gets you through the next third of the game, and then when you get Bahamut, fuck it, you're done, you know? Bard, because everyone had, like, the Bard songs, Requiem destroys undead. I mean, it does more damage than just about anything else you can do to them. So having a whole bunch of people just spamming Requiem made my day. And Blue Mage has, bar none, the most powerful spells you will ever get in the game, at the downside of being a pain in the ass to get. And I probably spent 2 or 3 days just collecting blue magic spells, but those spells were White Wind, Mighty Guard, and a couple other things just broke the game. It fucking broke the game. So that when I fought X-Death, I beat him in the first try, as opposed to taking like 10 attempts in every other playthrough. No, he fucking went down like a ton of bricks. He had nothing on me. And that was 4-Job Fiesta. So what else happened this year? Star Trek. I got better at Star Trek. Now don't sit there and think, oh, he just got better. No, what really happened was the really top tier players, for whatever reason, couldn't make a lot of the tournaments, which left me room to develop. And I've gotten significantly better. One of those players was actually there last night at the game, and he mentioned that from what he's seen, I have significantly improved since the last time he played me. Speaking of which, last night's Star Trek tournament was a lot of fun. We had a system where we reached into a bag and pulled out one of the target lock tokens. And then we would get a bag with a ship matching that target lock token, and we would pull 4 ships. And I ended up with probably the weakest ship in the game, which was the Bajoran light sailor, the Denorius. And the first round, I did garbage. It wasn't necessarily my fault, it was a dice fuck. And even my opponent's like, yeah, you totally got dice fucked. Don't get me wrong, there was plenty of blame to go around. I fucked up my maneuvering horribly. I kept smacking into my own ships and not getting actions, which really hurt. But the dice fuck hurt more than anything else. So I get into my second round opponent, who's this kid who is currently our worst player. He's also our newest player as far as when he started the game. So I like to tease him, you know, and he had a ship called the Dreadnought, which is not played often, but it's really powerful. It's got like 6 attack dice, when 4 is usually the average, 0 evade dice, 5 hull, and like 3 or 4 shields. So it's pretty beefy, and it'll if it shoots you, it's gonna fuck you up. And I made the joke that if the Denorius kills the Dreadnought, I will tease him about that throughout 2018. So the Dreadnought, his whole fleet's moving up, and the Dreadnought's the only thing that truly scares me on his fleet. He also had a Borg Scout Cube, which was decent, but not, like, terrifying. He might have had a Klingon ship, and he had something else, I forget. But I'm running a Romulan Warbird, a really, really prettily painted one. I'm running a Klingon Bird of Prey, specifically a Cavort class. I'm running the Denorius, and I'm running... Give me a second. The Reliant. The USS Reliant, the independent version that Khan had. So I moved my Klingon up. The Romulan has a trick where if she is in the firing arc of a faction that I choose, she shoots first, basically. She gets a 10 rank for shooting. And I chose the Dreadnought's faction because it was big and scary. So she shoots first, she rips the crap out of this thing's shields. Klingon shoots next, he tears chunks out of it as well. Because that's the other thing, I target locked with all of these ships so that I can reroll any blanks, so I'm getting all my hits. Then the Reliant goes up, and it shoots, and this thing, the shields are down, hull's taking a bit of a beating. Next is the Denorius. Now, I want to point out that the judge built these ahead of time but he fucked up on the Denorius. He had 2 cards on it that couldn't be used. One was specifically for a Bajorn Interceptor, but he didn't catch it in time, so he said just play it as is. The other involved doing extra damage if I have a target lock, but the Denorius can't make target locks, but he's like, well, for the purposes of this, you can. So I want to point out that in a real game, what I did is illegal. So the Denorius is point blank. All my ships are point blank. So I'm rolling 2 dice instead of 1. And I sack my thing that lets me roll 2 extras with my target lock. Now, the Dreadnought has 4 hull. I'm rolling 4 dice. If I miss any one of these, he's going to shoot me for 7 dice, and he can shoot any one of my ships he wants, and that ship is just dead. But I got all the hits I needed, and I killed this thing. And I laughed for a good minute and a half. Because, quite frankly, as I put it, I killed a planet killer with a ship that has no weapons. You know? And then I promptly, towards the end of the game, as like the last minute thing, it was literally the last round, I killed his scout cube with the Denorius, but because they had the same captain rank, even though he was destroyed, he got to make his move simultaneously, and he blew up the Denorius. So, and then in the third round, I killed something else with the Denorius. So that ship got 3 kills that tournament. So I told everyone, when I killed the Dreadnought, I'm like, I don't care what else happens, I won. I did a thing that should not have been done, and not only that, but I killed the biggest ship that any of us were playing, the Dreadnought. So, but yeah, I've significantly improved in Star Trek. I'm actually going to go up in a couple more hours, in like 3.5 hours. I'm going to ride my bike up there, because they're going to have a New Year's party with food, and I want food. And it's also free play, and one of the guys said he'll go up there and he'll play some Star Trek with me, so I'm bringing some Trek because I want to play. Because I only get to play once a month, you know, because none of my friends play it, and they don't come up and visit me anyway. I have to go see them. And quite frankly, unless I know someone's going to play Trek up there, it's a 16-mile round-trip bike ride. That's not something you do casually unless you know... I don't want to go up there and take the chance that maybe someone will play Star Trek, you know? But yeah, I'm going to go up there, and that's where I'm going to spend New Year's. I don't know if I'll stay up for a couple of hours, or if I'll come home after midnight again, or what, but it's just a thing. It's a thing I'm going to do. I mentioned the PS4. We have one of those now. I actually own a couple games on it myself. Lately, I have become the night shift, because the roommate goes to bed usually around midnight, sometimes as late as 1 or 2, and then I go out there, because it's in the living room, and I play until, like, sunrise. At which point, either he wakes up and comes into play, or he wakes up and goes to work, and I just go to bed. But lately, I've also been sleeping until, like, 3 a.m., so it kind of varies. That being said, my PlayStation 4 recordings will be severely hampered by that window, because it's not like the PS3, where I can literally just fire it up whenever, wherever, because the PlayStation 4 is in the living room. The roommate can't be out there, meaning he has to either be out of the house or just in his room asleep before I can record. So those will come a little slower than usual. Mom actually lost her place because their lease came up, and my sister, who was there on the lease, moved because she's a worthless piece of shit. And despite them never missing their rent, the people who were there weren't enough to keep the lease, so they all had to move, and Mom ended up in a nursing home. Though fortunately, she does like her nursing home. I've only been to visit her once. I was actually supposed to be there on my birthday and on Christmas, but my aunt couldn't bring me either of those times. But she did bring Mom up to visit me. And the reason I don't visit her myself is I don't really have a way to get there, because she's like 2 or 3 cities away from me. You know, it's like 20 miles from where I live, and I only have the bike. And on the bus, even if I were to take the bus, that's like a 2-hour trip each way. You know, it's like a 4-hour round trip. That's a sizable chunk of my day when a car can get me there in an hour. there and back, you know. Pokemon League. Earlier this year, I want to say probably around February or so. I don't even remember. It's been a couple months. I've been up there for a while now. I think I've been there going there for at least 6 months, so maybe it was around March or so. But anyway, um, I've been going to the library and I noticed a sign for Pokemon League and I was intrigued. I'm like, is that the card game or what? Because I figured it was, but like, no, card game and video game. So I'm like, oh, I kind of want to go up and play. Because I hadn't been playing much Pokemon because I had stopped. I'd beaten the game and I moved, so I wasn't seeing any of my friends because Anubis wasn't nearby anymore to play Pokemon with. Our HeroClix driver had moved out of the county, so she wasn't playing with me anymore. And none of my other friends played Pokemon, so I didn't have anything to drive me. Why get better? There's no reason. Who am I competing with, you know? So for whatever reason, I don't remember if I was just not in the mood for the tournament, or I was just sick or something, or they took that week off. But for whatever reason, I went up. We had a week off. I had a week off. And I'm like, fuck it, I'll go up to the Pokemon League. The reason being, the Pokemon League was held at Tuesdays from 4 to 6, which is exactly when the HeroClix tournaments were held. But since I had that week off, I went up there and I hung out there, and they were pretty cool. And I immediately went home and started hardcore fucking building my teams again. You know? Like, I came back with 6 completely different Pokemon than the ones I had the week before. That's what I did. I literally built a goddamn new team. And then the HeroClix judge took a month off for a cruise, at which point I just had 4 whole weeks of going up to play Pokemon. And then when he came back, for whatever reason, never mind the fact that we've been spending 5 years trying to get him to do this, he moved the day to Wednesday, so that suddenly there is no scheduling conflict between HeroClix and Pokemon. So I have literally not missed a single one since. Including the 8 weeks that I broke my neck. I just hobbled my ass up there or rode the bus. And it's great because I've met a couple new friends there, and I have been just doing Pokemon. I've been breeding them. And I've recently started, again, the online version of the card game. Because this week, that is to say last time I was there, I, at the last second, got my 3 wins that I needed to finish my chart and get the cards for next month. I have been getting the LE cards just in case I run into someone who wants them, you know. And as he was handing me those, he handed me these 2 download cards for the online card game, and I'm like, well, fuck it, why let them go to waste? The card game is free. And it was, in fact, the one that I used to play. And I downloaded the stuff, and now my deck is fucking invincible, which is kind of stupid. So I gotta go up and see if there's any other download cards, or if I can get a couple more. Just for trade shit, you know? And yeah, it's given me a whole new drive. Because, I mean, I still would have gotten Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon before. But now I was excited because I could play with this new game and play with these new people. And that's the thing about Pokemon. You can get in that game forever as long as you've got a couple people to compete with. And it's great because since I've gotten there, I've driven a lot of people to try and improve their teams a bit. Because I'm on top and they want to knock me off. And I have to keep improving because I want to stay on top. The one thing is kind of disappointing is a couple of people play the same Pokemon week after week. It's just, oh, I'm going to do a variation on it, or I'm going to mix up the order. And I understand having your favorites. Like, I have a couple, like Starlet, who's on almost every team I play. But you really have to mix it up, both for you and for your opponents, because, as I put it, if you play the same thing against me, I know how you play it, and I'm going to set up my first Pokemon to wipe your whole team. You know? HeroClix I mean, I've had fun with it, but I have, for the past 3 years, it feels like, just been flirting with the idea of leaving clicks altogether. I mean, I'll probably still play, but I haven't seriously collected. I don't think I've bought too many boosters at all this year compared to what I did in years previous. And part of it is the fact that I have no free money. Part of it's just the fact that I'm not feeling it. There are too many sets coming out. Half of them aren't that good. It just is, you know what I mean? I mentioned the new kittens. We had Lightning, he was a great little kitten. I could, every time I picked him up, he would just purr. That cat loved me to death, and he loved Willow and Maya as well. He would roughhouse with them all the time. But she moved out, and she took Lightning with him. That is the roommate's ex-girlfriend. And about a month ago, let me take a look here. Between November 15th and 22nd, we got a new kitten, a little black kitten that we named T'Challa. We named him because the roommate asked me what the Black Panther's name was, and I told him T'Challa, so that was my contribution to the name. And little T'Challa he's so fun. He's a rambunctious little thing, and he loves Willow and Maya as well. It took him a couple days to get used to him. But more surprisingly, he also loves Rio, and Rio likes him. And the two of them will roughhouse a lot, but she plays real rough with him. Like, she makes him cry all the time. And he's trying to be friends with Betsy, and Betsy isn't having it. And he's trying to be friends with Winkles, and Winkles isn't having it. But hey, 3 out of 5 of the pets get along with him. That's not a bad ratio. And it's not like Betsy and Winkles attack him or anything. Although Betsy growls when he's anywhere near him, but she never made an aggressive action towards him. And he has recently taken to wandering into my room and stealing their food, but that's okay, because whenever they can, they steal his food, so it's kind of a give and take. I have a deep fryer, and while that's an awesome thing, the story behind it is not. This year, one of my cousins died. He and I haven't really been particularly close. But he had moved to North Carolina, and when he moved back from there, he just wasn't the same. I don't know why, but he was really bitchy a lot of the times, especially with me. And then he moved back, and he lived on his own. He had his dogs. And turned out he'd had a heart attack and died, and it took him like 3 days to find out he was there. And my aunt went up there, and my mom was so pissed. Keep in mind, my mom's mental state has been deteriorating for the past couple of years, but my mom was so pissed that no one would pick her up and take her to North Carolina, and I pointed out, Mom, you are so far out of the way. She's like, well, they couldn't come pick me up. I'm like, no, Mother. Some of them were coming from Virginia, so they would have to go through North Carolina to Florida and then back to North Carolina. The other one's coming from Oklahoma, so she would have to come out of her way. I'm like, there's only one person who's not out of the way. And she has so much stuff that she couldn't fit you in the car anyway, you know. But I get a call from North Carolina from my aunt, and she says, do you still need a deep fryer? Because he has one, it's barely been used, and if you want it, you can have it. And I did. And I actually bought a potato slicer for it, because I will live off French fries if presented them, you know. And it actually broke, and I shipped it back and found out that it's easier to just, you know, cut them by hand, so I got my money back for it. And I will just go up every now and then and buy a 10-pound bag of potatoes, chop them up, and that's dinner. You know, the only problem is I can't cook them at night because the smell wakes the roommate up. But one of the perks of breaking my neck, one of the few perks, was the fact that my friend came up almost every night for a couple weeks just to help me out around the house until I was able to walk the dog myself. And one of the first things he did was I had him help me make macaroni and cheese. And he's stronger than me, so he can stir even more of the cheese in there. And it was Oh, that was some good shit. I am craving it so bad right now. Usually when I go up to these parties up at Critical Hit, as I am going to do tonight, they tend to have cheese out that I graze on all night, and a couple times they brought mac and cheese, and it was spiced really weird, but it's still good, and I'm gonna dig into that. I'm gonna have some cake. It's looking like it's gonna be a good food day for me. I know it sounds really scummy, but when you're poor, you take free food. When free food is presented, you take it. Oh, free food. That reminds me. The coolest thing, the fucking bar none coolest thing that happened to me this year. And this is something I spent the whole year looking forward to because it was told to me last December. The bookstore I go to is a pretty cool bookstore, and they go to conventions every now and then, and they know a lot of authors, and they have authors come in like several times a month. I've only really cared about a couple of them, and I've only gone to one of them. But anywhere from 2 to 6 of these fuckers come in a month. So it's a pretty active bookstore. But last December, one of the workers there, and the workers are pretty cool with us because we're regulars. They really like us. We like them, you know. We get discounts on literally everything in the store. I mean, I could go up there today and buy a book and get a discount on it because I'm up there so frequently, you know. Which amazes me that I get the discount, even though I always thought it was for HeroClix, but I mean, I get the discount, so that's awesome. We just get that. If you've never been a regular from a place, it's the best feeling in the world. You know, they treat you like family. But anyway, he told me that they were in the talks to get Timothy Zahn, who to me is just the best writer Star Wars has. And he was going to sign the new Thrawn book when it came out. And I literally, the day that he was coming, I called up and said, do you have any of the hardcovers in stock? Yeah, we got plenty. Hold one for me. And they did. They're like, well, we've got plenty, but we'll do it for you. And I walked up there. Well, I didn't walk. I took a bus. But I went up there. I gave him my money. I took my book and got it signed. And they actually sold out of them. I mean, they sold out after I got mine, so they didn't necessarily need to hold it. But the fact that they sold out said that I at least had the right instincts. But I fanboyed so hard talking with him, and I stayed up there for like an hour just shooting the shit with him and some of the 501st. Because, yeah, that's the thing. The local 501st came in and did Star Wars shit, and they had some kestrels, little falcons, and they were really cute. I didn't try to pet them because these are flesh-eating birds of prey that could seriously fuck me up if they got even slightly agitated. I mean, don't get me wrong, these birds were smaller than the length of my elbow to my wrist, but they're still not something. They're not. They may look like cute little pet birds, but they are not. You know. And I even said, like, part of me wants to pet them, but I know better. And the guy handling them was like, yeah, you don't pet them. But oh, that was a great day. And if you're wondering why free food is what brought that up, they had cookies there, and they still had cookies when the thing was over, and they let me take one of the boxes with them because, like, no, I'm diabetic and I don't need cookies in my diet right now, so just take them. So I took them and I went to my Star Trek tournament and I won. But yeah, that was a fantastic day for me. That, by the way, also happened during the neck brace saga. So I've got a couple pictures in my phone of me in a neck brace standing next to Timothy Zahn holding up a book. It's pretty cool. So yeah, like I said, the plan is go up there, eat some cake, graze on a bunch of cheese, eat some mac and cheese, maybe find some other goodies they got up there and nom on them, and play some Star Trek. And maybe come home early, maybe come home tomorrow, you know. But like I said, the years had a lot of ups and downs to it. A lot of good things, couple bad things, couple really bad things. Um, what? What, little dog? You're okay. I'm looking at the computer trying to see if anything will jog my memory about cool shit that's happened. No, that pretty much does it. So, nothing else really comes to mind to talk about. So, Happy New Year, everyone. Bye-bye.